All right, another episode of Contagious Leadership Live. It's been a few episodes. Lorianne and I took a little break, but we're happy to be back. I believe this is episode 82. Is that right? Daniel Kading is here. If you guys have not had an opportunity to see him, we're fairly lucky that we were able to get him on. He's a LinkedIn, what he calls a ghostwriting expert, and I got to watch him on another podcast. You guys are really in for a treat. Lorianne, how have you been?
I've been great. I missed you. I missed you. I missed the show, and
here we are again. You just missed Johnny and I getting into it for the first 15 minutes prior to the show. That's what you missed. Anyways, you guys are going to be right back with Daniel Kading right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Yay. Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah, welcome back. We are so excited about what is going to be happening this year. So much work, but without further delay, let's bring Daniel in. Nice little warm applause. Welcome, Daniel, very much. There it is. There's the studio, our live studio audience. Remember the shows in the 90s? You know, we filmed in front of a live studio audience, like 5 people. But it's like...
And we have 4 people.
Yeah.
That's our producer.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you never know who's watching live right now.
That's right.
Daniel, why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself? You said LinkedIn is your dojo. That's where we clicked because I love what we can do here, whether we coach, help, work with clients, or self. Introduce yourself.
Cool. Yeah, so my name's Dan. Basically been working on LinkedIn for the last 2-3 years now. And I got started when I started out with my college and started doing my online school, writing and doing all kinds of papers on marketing and the whatnot. And it seemed like a lot of the people I was in school with just did not have a whole lot of awesome stuff to say about it. They were really just trying to get their credits and it really did not matter to them, the nerdy stuff that I wanted to discuss. So I started posting on LinkedIn, started developing a community, started hacking the algorithm. I had professors that were like, you should get on LinkedIn. And I'm like, oh, I'm on LinkedIn. I got this covered. I'm doing it. So, I've been doing that ever since. I love the formatting. I know a lot of people think LinkedIn is super cringe, but that's only because they're following cringe people and they should stop connecting with everybody that comes their way and really try to find legit people who are really fun to talk with and build communities with. So now I ghostwrite and been building an agency with a really successful entrepreneur who knows way more than I do. And things are going really well. So it's one of those things where if you don't know what you're doing, partner up with someone that does. And for the longest time, I've been a freelancer, and now I'm growing a legit agency called Ghostwrite. And we are catering to SaaS founders and people who are running businesses and trying to build networks and create opportunity for themselves. And LinkedIn is one of the best places they can do that, to actually put out content in front of people who have money to spend rather than just a bunch of teenagers commenting on your Instagram reel. That's cool and all, but I prefer to have top executives in my DMs and in my comments as opposed to the latter. So yeah, that's sort of a little bit about me. But I'm from Colorado and married my high school sweetie. I got a 4.5-year-old daughter, and life is good.
It's awesome.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, that was rolled up. You did a good job on that one. You rolled that one up real tight.
Thanks,
where should we begin?
Well, I have a question.
This conversation.
Yeah, so it sounds like as you were going through school and you got the spark here to start looking at ways of producing income. Is that essentially what drew you to LinkedIn at first? Was it because you found a way to connect with actual revenue that was in the market?
No, it did not begin like that. It began as a passion project. I was going on, it was like the start of COVID. I was at home a lot. I started going on walks because I don't really like jogging and I hate working out. And so I started going on walks and listening to Gary Vee scream at me about LinkedIn.
Yeah.
He's like, you gotta get on LinkedIn. You gotta be building on there. You know, like he wasn't even talking about TikTok at the time. And he got done with these like keynote speeches and he's like, you know what? I know there's like 99% of you are gonna leave this room and do absolutely none of what I said. And I'm like, I'm not even in the room. And I'm going to do everything you told me to do. And so like at the time I was also driving Grubhub and doing a whole bunch of random shit to try to make money and get by. And so when I was waiting for trips, I'd go on Twitter and find anybody that was mentioning the word sales, because that was my niche at the time. And I'd comment on their stuff. That was what he told me. He was like, look, when I started building on Twitter back in 2006, 2008, back in the beginning of social media, he's like, I'd go find somebody that was saying wine. Anybody that said wine, I was commenting on their stuff. And I was like, what is this growth tool you're using? I was like, wow, social media can be a tool. You can engage with other people. You can talk. You can build buzz by just communicating with other people. And so I took those same learnings that I got from Twitter and I took them over to LinkedIn. And I realized that, wow, this algorithm actually rewards communicating. So I started leveraging that and creating conversation and creating buzz. And through that, throughout that, those connections, it started to connect me with all kinds of other people. So at the first, it was just a passion project. I've been a writer since I was 17 years old. Been a creative my entire life. And so the writing aspect was just a part of me. I had things that needed to be expressed. And so LinkedIn was the place for me to do that. And then eventually I started selling my skills and started ghostwriting and all that stuff started falling into place. So
I have a comment first before we go. I'm sure that you've got.
I've got plenty. I've got plenty because I love listening to that drive. Right, I love listening to that particular journey because it's so natural and organic.
Yeah.
That, and you said a word. You said I started selling. You were never selling. You were serving, and that's the thing. Like from day one, it was all about just filling a void and a gap. So that was the only thing I had. I mean, I got more, but that was the only thing. Yeah, I got plenty. But yeah,
here's what I like is that, Daniel, you like listen to something because a lot of people be like, oh God, that information is so old now. That's from the early like
that's still 1999 of you.
It might as well be.
And you just it's like anything that's like 2 years old, it's like, oh, but I need a strategy that was like just built last week. But you just like, hey, I'm just gonna like implement what I just heard. And it worked. That's what I loved. That's what I just wanted to acknowledge you for, is that you might have been, like fresh out of school or still in school, but you just applied what Gary Vee was talking about. And just like you said, and then you moved it to another platform and it worked. You saw the evidence because you kept doing it again and again.
Right now, the anyone in the market is either one video, one post, one anything away from moving their lives into a completely different place. And one of the things I love about LinkedIn, Daniel, and I believe you nailed this in part of your conversation earlier where you talked about the quality, is that, and I'm seeing a lot of influencers and actually folks that have had large, carryovers, whether it's their videos or, on YouTube or whether it's content. And they're really starting to bring that message out where they're like, look, even the platforms are no longer rewarding, content producers or influencers or anybody out there solely and strictly on some level of large following. It's about the content. And I think it's interesting because what I love about what LinkedIn is able to do, and I want to hear more about how you help small businesses get there, how you help that entrepreneur, that solopreneur, and really your services can extend to even a larger group where you can help offset that cost for larger marketing teams. And that's what I love about it, because you're not limited in terms of how you help people, because it's a skill set that teaches them how to amplify whatever it is that they're doing. But in LinkedIn, we have such an ability to hit a higher level of quality return. It's not about, oh, I had 1,000 likes or I had, right? It's not about that. It's about the fact that you have a quality network you can connect with, and they're reading, they're watching. You know, they don't need to thumb up. They're not trying to like or be your friend, but they're watching. I mean, would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I think so. I think LinkedIn is the place for people who want influence. They're not necessarily looking to become influencers. They're not looking for vanity. They're looking to actually grow their business. And as much as 1,000 likes on Instagram is huge, you have to ask yourself: is there quality in that community? Are people going to Instagram to learn above all else, or are they going there to numb out, scroll through their feed, and not give a crap about their day? I think that the answer would be yes. That's what most people are going to TikTok for. I know when my wife gets on TikTok, she starts scrolling and her life disappears. And that's a great feature of that entertaining app. But when people go to LinkedIn, they're trying to learn, they're trying to scale up what they're doing, they're trying to find that next hack that's going to teach them their next big thing. And so I think that there's a huge opportunity because similar to how Facebook, when you put someone's phone number in your phone, this is half the reason I don't even like to give people my phone number, because I'm like, you're going to find my Facebook all of a sudden and I'm going to have some questions to answer. It's like, I don't want you going anywhere near my Facebook. I'm like, that's from my past, like my professional page is my LinkedIn page. I deleted all of my work experience out of Facebook because I was tired of all my former coworkers finding me. I'm like, I don't want to talk to any of you ever again. And so it's like, for me, LinkedIn is really cool how, like, if you start interacting with somebody who has a really, really strong community of people that trust them and are validated, they will start interacting with you. And all of a sudden that their entire second and third degree connections are seeing your content in their feed, all because of that little communication you had in the comments. It goes against that nature of, guilty by association, but you can be trusted by association. And so building upon that on LinkedIn, you create those comments, you create those conversations, you ask, a lot of people want to drop the comment of like, yeah, great post. And I'm like, cool. You got more to say about that? I'm like, what do you think's great about it? And I ask them that, and I bet people feel like I put them on blast. And you know what? Good thing too. You better know exactly what to expect when you come into my comments and you say something. It's like, I know you didn't read it. Let's get into the conversation now. And so, because when you create that buzz back and forth, all of a sudden LinkedIn is showing you off to their a huge swath of their followers. And so it creates that family tree effect of networking, leading back to you as a potential resource. And if you create an amazing page that sells who you are and communicates what your value is, you don't have a picture of the ocean, like you have a banner that's clear and crisp and concise. You really created a lot of opportunity for yourself. So I think that there is just a lot more to be had. And, I've had some of the, like I said on the podcast previously, the one that you found me through, like the CMO of Gong, one of the biggest SaaS companies, jumping into my comments and having conversations with me. That's just not going to happen on other platforms. There may be some examples of that, but the algorithm is just not set up to give low-level creators a chance at those opportunities, But LinkedIn
You're right. Like, I've had the opportunity because of LinkedIn. I've been able to connect with, top content creators, Patrick Bet David. I connected with him 5, 6, 7 years ago, and was able to end up meeting him in person and spending time with him.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was so many awesome opportunities of being able to connect with real influencers. I even had an opportunity when connecting with Grant Cardone and being able to actually chat with him in a private little message on Clubhouse. And I was like, holy shit.
I can reach you. I have the ability to reach out and say something to you.
He actually asked me to come in because he wanted to know a little bit more on a comment I had made, but he has done that more than once. These people, they're smart. They're watching who's actually commenting. When you watch those strong creators, and it's funny that you mentioned Gary Vee. I have been talking about this guy like he's the coming of the second coming of Christ for years. And Donnie can tell you this. I'm not kidding. I'm trying to find it. I put out a post here the other day. I was just, because what we do, Contagious Media, essentially, we work with our clients to help them understand how to monetize their personal reputation. And then what we do is on one part, we help these leaders, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs realize that just like what you're doing from the aspect of supporting the copy, we're showing them that, it doesn't take much to build trust, awareness, and really start to create that relationship. And then the other part of our business kind of gives their company a boost through our Amplify program, kind of like an accelerator to help kind of get them going. And then it's up to them to see if they want to continue working with the tools of the programs. But the idea is they shouldn't be eating baby food the whole time, because the simplicity of what we're teaching them, my God, if I have to keep telling you how to fix your profile and to stop putting your old Yahoo, MSN, or AOL email in there, and you wonder why nobody's reaching you. Well,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Judgment. Instant judgment if you see AOL. Yeah.
Yes,
yes. Right? Or Hotmail.
Hotmail's not as bad. Hotmail's not as bad. AOL's pretty bad. Like, come on, that came in the mail. It was.
I think they're both equal. Just like, get a real email address, people.
Yeah, you probably got Reader's Digest sitting
on your
counter.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
But it's also LinkedIn that, this is how you and I met, Rigo, too.
That's exactly right. Why don't you tell Daniel how that happened. A
friend of mine from high school that I graduated with reached out to me and said, hey, I think you'd be a great host or just a guest on Rigo's show. And so I ended up coming on the show, and it was the day that he lost his co-host, and I am now the guest that never left.
Yeah, she went on a 3-week trip to Costa Rica. And by week 3, I remember looking at Donnie and I was like, yeah, you can't go to Costa Rica for 3 weeks and come back and be completely engaged. And we were definitely in the process of finding our rhythm, but it couldn't have been any more perfect. And Lorianne came on. I said, Lorianne, I'm so sorry. My co-host, and she was awesome. Kristen was absolutely awesome, but she wasn't seeing the value for her and her direction and her business at that time. And it couldn't have been better, because Lorianne was looking for this expansion, and I needed a Lorianne. Krista and I are identical. We're twins, okay, from another mother. We're both firecrackers, and we're both all over the place. I needed a Lorianne. We wouldn't have matured without a Lorianne.
That's awesome. Yeah. So LinkedIn brought you together.
It brought us together, but more than that, it started to introduce incredible people. And this is the beauty of this. And that's when I realized, because just like you, Daniel, this was a passion project. This was not to build my business. The entire show is about a contagious leadership attitude, about a behavior of being, my God, the show actually drove us to change the name of the company. We were MW partners for 5 years. We just changed the name of the company this year. Because what we realized was, this is what we need to do. I'm seeing young people like yourself and others who are recognizing, not even needing to go to school. I've had a couple of my children work for me. I have young people that have worked for me, middle age and older, but I'm watching, like, my son as an example, where he is producing a show, working in a 7-figure company, learning how to produce, how to build, how to plan, how to lay out, and never went to school for it. And he hasn't, 2 years of this. That's what I told him is, you're going to go out and someone's going to have a marketing degree, and you're going to be like,
yeah, it doesn't even matter. My marketing degree taught me almost nothing about marketing. I mean, I like, at the end of the day, human psychology, my wife's a therapist. That stuff is way, way more impactful when it comes to branding and marketing than any, like, they still pitch Twitter like it's a microblog, and they talk about things like things are changing so quickly, and the world is constantly changing, but if you stick to those fundamentals. So that's really great. I mean, if I could go back, I probably wouldn't have even started school in my early 20s. And I probably would have skipped the whole entire thing, honestly, because I've learned so much. And any job I've gone to, it's been because of my network and because of my personality and because of my trustworthiness over anything else. Like the diploma I have behind my computer back there, no one cares about it. It costs less than most diplomas, but still, I mean, in my head, I would probably have gone that same route, and getting that 2 years of experience producing a podcast is leaps and bounds more impactful than even going to a university like Full Sail, where it's like they promise to teach all this stuff, and it's like, but what's the cost, and what long term is that going to do to me? Totally. So
more than that, Daniel, one of the things he doesn't realize yet is the mental, emotional, and physical abuse that he's getting put through working for his father There will never be another soul in his life that will ever be able to push him over any level. He will just be like everyone was angels. He'll have no idea
Yeah,
that I was preparing him for
that's probably
life.
so true.
That's
Yeah.
So true.
right. He doesn't realize
Yeah.
it yet. I tell him, you have no idea. I promise you, your life will be easier later down the road. But I do have a question for you. Can I ask how old are you, Daniel? If you don't mind.
31.
Okay.
31.
So 31 years old, you have a fresh family, you're high school sweetheart, and a son or daughter? I couldn't.
Daughter.
Okay. So you're getting going. You are in a position right now where you have a freedom, would you say, to build and grow as much as you want. Okay. Right. What would you say right now to that this is the time? And I believe that people are awakening. And I still believe, especially after COVID. This is my personal and very strong belief. I think a lot of employees or employers, excuse me, became very open to the idea. But I believe that an employee can now offer just as much, if not more, value without having to give 100% of the time. Because I believe that there is a different drive that they have. They've been able to learn how to work around this, and they've realized personally, managing for years, and I look at the stats and I look at the Fortune 500 companies. Do you know that a 60% efficiency is a top number in the Fortune 100s of the world? 60% efficiency. That's how much lost time is just lost in wasted meetings and all the dumb stuff that happens, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at that, this, I believe, is the time in the era for folks to find someone like yourself, find coaches like Lorianne to learn how to actually go and speak in front of a group or present or get noticed and get on podcasts. But what is the one thing, if not two of the most important elements that you could help them understand that would get them over that edge to go explore and see the possibilities?
For me, I think it came with getting chewed up by corporate America. And I worked for a manufacturing company in my town making semiconductors, which was, sounds cooler than it was. I was just essentially a button pusher. And I wore one of those suits that you see like the NASA folks wearing when they're putting together, the next Mars rover. So it was very uncomfortable, very difficult to go to the bathroom when you need to go. You got to get out of that suit first. And so it was a 1980s style company. Whenever things got tight, they started firing anybody that had even the slightest attendance issue. And then for me, my attendance was never bad, but like I would go to the bathroom for like 3 or 4 minutes longer than my average coworker. And I had my manager sit me down and berate me for going to the potty for too long. And I never have felt so dehumanized than when I worked at that company. And I've gotten to the point in my career where I talk total shit on my previous employers because they deserve it. They did everything they could to make me hate them. And when I finally quit my job, I called my mom and was expecting to get like the whole like, you shouldn't do this, it's not practical. And she was like, good, they don't deserve you, and you should move on. And they've clearly given you every reason to not work with them. And then I called my grandpa, and he's like, well, you never really seemed like a square peg to me, so, and he's like, I think you're making the right decision. And I was just like, what is up with this? All my older relatives are like, get the hell out of there. And so like, it wasn't necessarily that I was still going to make that decision even so, because they had pushed me to my absolute extremes. And I think so many people have gone through that experience in one way or another, where they have an employer that could not care less about them. And at the end of the day, like, we've grown up in a society where it's like, you need to give yourself fully to this corporate cause, but that cause just doesn't match up with what it used to look like, and it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't create it doesn't create enough to make it worth it.
It's not.
And you end up still paycheck to paycheck and working 12-hour shifts 3 to 4 days a week and waking up at 5 a.m. and just cursing the heavens because you just do not want to get up and go to work and be in this environment where you're not appreciated. So I think for me, it's like just realizing that the world is your oyster, that we have this tool, social media, technology, all these things that were kind of sucking the life out of me for the most of my life. I never had anything really that great to say about social media, other than I wasn't that good at making a good Instagram picture for the longest time. But like as my time and my mind started to switch, and I started to see that like I can use this as a tool to grow my following and sort of treat this and gamify it to a sense.
Yes.
It became something that was more interesting to me. It became an opportunity. It became, I'm not just sitting on my couch and scrolling through IG. I'm going in here and I'm talking to people that I could grow my business with, and I could help them grow. And so I think like there's a good example. My buddy Brad, he's in the UK. He was just getting chewed up by this employer in the marketing field, and he told me what he was getting paid. And I was like, dude, that is unreal. I'm like, I made more money when I worked in manufacturing, and I didn't even have an education at that time. And I just kept honing, he kept coming to me like, I got so many projects. I'm just pushing this stuff out the door. They don't even care if it's done right. They just want me to work like crazy and just keep running on this treadmill. And I'm just like, dude, you're not happy. Like, I can tell you're not happy. You should move on from this. You should try to find something else. And just recently, he ended up finding himself an amazing opportunity, making twice as much, working for a startup team that's way more interesting, way more willing to listen to him, hear his ideas. And all of a sudden, he is just so not depressed anymore. He's so happy. I can barely even reach him now because he's so busy, which is awesome. And I couldn't be more happy for him. And I think it's all about realizing that your circumstance, your status quo that you've created for yourself is easily broken, and you can get out of that, and you can try something else, and you can get those results if you just put yourself out there, tell a great story. Like myself, I'm very good at quantifying my path to where I've gotten to, and people will start to latch onto that and want to bring you on their podcast and talk about it more, and that just continues to go beyond that too. It's like being able to know what you do and what, I'm a skater kid poet from Colorado, and I'm not an anomaly. I'm just another person that committed to the process, and here I am. And I kept doing what felt good. I'm a community builder. I'm curious as hell. Like, it's not just that I'm trying to annoy people and get more organic reach in my comments. I'm genuinely curious about what people think, and if you can apply those methods to your comments, you can grow on LinkedIn, for instance. And it's really cool like that. So I hope I answered your question.
No, you did. And and if anybody's following you like I am, and you see your content, it's very natural. It's very you. It is very natural. You ask questions, you talk about how you help, but it is very natural. And one of the things that I find that that's interesting, and I want to get your take on this, but if okay, I don't like to write. Okay, so I do a lot of video. Video was easy for me to do. And somebody says, "Oh, I don't I get nervous." Well, I tell them, if you can, you got to get over it. Video is great, but don't do video. Don't do it. Do something else, right? Like, write. So I don't know how to write. What do we do, Daniel? Like, it makes me uncomfortable. I get stuck. I don't know how to do this. I can speak. I can get in front. I've taken Lorianne's course. Man, I got no problems getting out there. Lorianne helps me put this stuff together. I look like a pro, but if I try to do this on my own, so it's going to be too risky. I can't figure it out. I don't know what to do. What does somebody do then? Like, help me out. Help that person out that says, I can't write.
So take your video, turn on Otter AI, play it, and it'll transcribe it for you, and then just take that written copy and post it as you're written. So that way you don't even have to think about it. You've already done the hard work of talking your way through that video. So just let that transcription be the star of what you talk about. Maybe throw a little spit shine on it and make it look a little bit different. Throw some hashtags that are related to LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever place you're putting it at. But yeah, you've already done that hard work. So I would say, just don't even write it. Let the computer do it for you, and then take that and turn it into your content.
Dude,
I like that. Also, because like not everybody watches video. There were, to be able to put things in multiple different formats, whether it's just audio, video, or text, it allows us just to appeal to a greater audience so that everybody gets to choose what way they want to actually consume information or stories.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah. And I mean,
great answer, Daniel.
No, and the truth is,
I do the same thing.
Yeah. You just, you recycle it and you keep bringing it out there. I mean, it's really not complicated.
Yeah, like if you feel natural in that video, just make the video the star of the written, and it's like it just remove that barrier of entry as opposed to sitting down and like, oh, I got to write something. Crap, like for me, I hate making videos. On the flip side, I rightfully should be making more of them, but the whole process of it just gives me a headache a lot of the time. And so at some point, I'll have to hire an editor. My own dude. He already approached me. I told him to wait a few weeks, but yeah,
we'll show you how, Daniel. We'll swap tips. See, that's the beauty. I was on the phone yesterday with another awesome entrepreneur. He's one of my coaches, my personal life coaches, and we were trading all the different things we're learning on how to speed up the process. Lorianne and I, a couple of weeks ago, finally sat down and we had a virtual, bottle of wine. We sat down and we had a couple glasses of wine, and I was showing her, look at how crazy this stuff is and what we can do now and being able to cultivate and create content. But I think, one of the things I want to get across is the importance of being yourself. Everything changed for me a couple of years ago when our producer, Donald Murillo, in a matter of a few weeks or months, got like over 1 million plus views standing on his head on Instagram. That was it. He just did it. He was standing on his head and he got like 1 million views for standing on his head. And I wasn't insulting. At first I was like, that is stupid. Like, I can't believe, like, I work so hard. Like, when you go back and you look at some of literally our first videos were probably one of the best produced videos we've ever done, but they took so long to do. They were phenomenal. And I realized, but he stood on his head like for 10 seconds and he got like 1 million plus views on this. And I realized we overthink and we forget that we don't have to fake authentic. Like, just be yourself. Get out there and do what comes natural to you. But more importantly is stay consistent, right? Staying consistent with it. I'm curious, and I want to turn this over to Lorianne because I know she hasn't stopped talking most of the show. But, what would you, if you wanted to offer someone advice right now on what is maybe 1 or 2 tips that they could do to quickly change how they may see LinkedIn, right? So their perspective may be like, I'm not sure if it's really what you say it is. I hear people say it, but it's just, it's just a ploy to get me in. What are some, if you want to offer 2 tips that you go do these, you're going to see an immediate difference in how the response happens to your content or even just to people interested in you?
Well, thank you. That's actually a good question. And I think this really leads into strategy, which is something that I wanted to talk to you about, Daniel, a little bit more. But I think I personally have not, I would say like early on in my entrepreneurial career, I wasn't on LinkedIn. And it's only because of this show that I actually it's almost like LinkedIn was like rebirthed for me. So, but I think we need to talk about a strategy for people who are just getting started. I mean, I think it's a great question, but what is that strategy for getting started?
Yeah, when you get on LinkedIn, there's a lot of dinosaurs. There's a lot of people who create fluff influencer content. They talk about their brands, their team. They don't use you statements. They talk from this higher power position, and it really turns a lot of people off. And then you start getting DM'd by all these ridiculous salespeople. They're like, "Hey, you got 15 minutes to talk?" And it's just like, no, I don't have any time to talk to anybody I don't trust. Please go away.
And you nailed it. That word right there. I don't trust. If I don't trust you, why am I going to engage with you? Especially right here.
If someone walked up to you while you're in the bathroom and you're washing your hands and they're like, "Hey, my name's Daniel. I'd really love to schedule a 15-minute meeting to talk about SaaS with you." It's like, no, I am leaving. I'm going back to the movie. I want you to stay away from me, you creep, you know? And so it's like, but on LinkedIn, for some reason, there's someone out there that's telling them that this is somehow a good strategy. And so luckily that's reduced a lot. There used to be 10,000 connection requests you could send per month. Now it's down to 400. And people still complain about that. And I'm like, stop sending so many connection requests. Go engage with people on their content, have conversations with them. They'll come to your page, they'll show interest in you, but they're not going to work with you unless they trust you. They're certainly not going to talk to you. And so yeah, I think for a lot of people, getting on the platform and finding the people that say things that are off the cuff, that are authentic, they rant. One of my favorite creators, Jason Vana, he has this thing called Sassy Jason, and he'll do a sassy take about something. I kind of stole it from him, and I'll be like Sassy Dan, every so often. And now that I'm appealing to SaaS creators, it's even funnier. So, but yeah, like I think that there is a level to what you say where it's like, oh, no one wants to hear me rant. I've gotten that feedback from so many people, and I'm like, that is such bullshit.
You don't know what people want to hear or not hear.
Yeah, they don't know anything. You're stopping yourself to come back to Gary Vee. You're saying no before you've even given yourself a chance to say yes.
Yeah, you're likely comparing yourself to some other authority or some other personality when that's not what it's about. It's about you finding your authentic self, right?
You don't do that unless you start posting.
That's
yeah,
it.
like Mr. Beast would tell you, go post 100 videos on YouTube and then come find me. It's like, don't even start giving me feedback until you've given yourself a chance to get that feedback too. And so like through the process of creating, you find that level of perfectly adequate. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be perfect at all. In fact, what makes you so damn interesting is the fact that you're not perfect and that you have problems and that you haven't figured it out. I mean, most of my content in the beginning was like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I want to talk about sales. I was honest about that. And then as time went on, I started realizing, you know what? I'm pissed off today. This annoyed the shit out of me. I'm going to go tell everybody about it. And I didn't care who it was going to upset. And if someone does show up and they start to, but let's be honest, like trolls on LinkedIn are soft compared to trolls on Reddit and Twitter and all these other places. They got nothing. They got nothing. I can handle those trolls. You go on YouTube, those trolls are harsh. They are difficult to talk back to. But on LinkedIn, they'll have half the time they'll delete their conversation because they're so shocked that you actually push back on them.
Yeah.
But I think you don't have to be right every time either. Like if you get it wrong, I spent like an entire week posting about something one time, and I had accidentally swapped out word count for character count, and my entire week of content was rubbish. I was like, wow, I really steered you guys the wrong direction. And so I wrote a post about how much I had been screwing up over that last week. And I got tons of feedback on it. Like, yeah, I wasn't quite sure about that, but thank you so much for being authentic and coming out here and saying you did this wrong. It's like those are opportunities for content. The fact that you're not perfect is what makes you sellable.
Thanks for giving me something to talk about, because I really wasn't quite sure. We should probably do something on this one, Donnie, because it actually did. There we go. All right, I'm back. It actually did bother me, and I didn't really say too much about it, but it was funny. We had a client that followed every guideline that we put together. They let us, you get the clients that do well. We have quite a few of them that they listen really well, and they let us do our thing, and they see the success and they're happy. We have some that weren't able to do their part. They never complained about it, but every now and then you get one that wants to. Particularly question certain items, or they hired you to help fix things for them, but then they'll tell you what you should probably do. And I'm thinking, well, why didn't you do it? But anyways, right. So we had one client that we did an amazing job for. They had massive growth. I mean, it was thousands of new subscribers every month. And it was interesting because one of my ladies in the office misspelled, and the corporate that table got angry, and they decided that they weren't going to continue with us because we misspelled. I'm not kidding. And misspelling. And here's what's funny. You ready? I told them as it was growing, I said, you want to know something? Everyone's so engaged here and so involved. You guys are definitely the staple for like how positive everything will work if you just follow the process, and just follow the process. And as we were coming to the other end, I said, you know what's going to be really interesting is you're also going to be a really good example of what happens when you go against simplicity. They were complaining that they were seeing the same simple context, that it wasn't a lot of words, that it was just the same thing over and over. And I explained to them, well, first off, it's your page. So you're going to see it more often. Secondly, how confusing are you trying to make it for a post? I said, you guys keep it simple, get them on the phone, build your connection. That's all you need. Mm-hmm. And it was really interesting because they decided to move on. It's fine. We still have a good relationship. They didn't drop a little. They went, they literally hit the floor and have stayed there for 6, 7, 8 months. And they've done nothing. They lost all the momentum. So we exploded them and it dropped. And it was such a good eye opener for myself and something I love sharing with my clients now. I don't tell them who it is. It validates because I'm like, look, simple. It wasn't complicated. It was consistent and it was always there. And we continued to get the same 3 or 4 concepts out. We built trust. We wanted to connect. We invited people to get to know us. That was all we needed to do. The rest comes by creating and developing relationship. I believe, for me, I think why I like LinkedIn so much, Daniel, and I want to hear, Lori and talk about strategy. I think that's a really good conversation because to me, LinkedIn was about as real as you could get in a social setting. Like if I'm in they call it, it's an old school term, but you might know it, Daniel. It's called belly to belly, right? So in the events where you're networking belly to belly, especially with us old guys. Yeah. Right. And so we're out there networking, having our beer. It's funny because we go to the conferences, we have all the courses, like literally we're there all day to just get to the bar where we're finally actually going to start closing business and getting everything worked out. And it's interesting because I always found that LinkedIn gave you that same opportunity because it gave you so much information on somebody to connect with them. You really had to build a level of trust. And so they had to be willing to allow you to now see, you got their email, you got their number, right? Like if they're going to connect with you, they're saying, okay, I trust you enough to not abuse the information I just gave you access to and to my network that you just now connected with. So let's build from there. And I think if people stop thinking and seeing it as social media and realize that it is purely a networking site, which allows you to essentially access the same power of being in that networking environment every day. It's up to them to go get it done. So when you sit with your new clients that are coming to you, Daniel, how do you build a strategy with them to help them, maximize that use of having a ghostwriter? Help us understand that.
Yeah, so I have SOPs, standard operating procedures, and I have one. I basically used to have an ebook, and I just brought all that stuff out of my ebook and turned it into a series of different things that they can be trained on and be taught. And so I break down exactly how you should engage in the comments. I tell them to avoid the My Network button and not go anywhere near it because all they're going to find is a bunch of dead resume accounts. I don't really work with Sales Navigator. I know that some of them like to use that, but I personally prefer to lean on brand and lean on organic engagement as opposed to trying to go find people and hunt them down. I'd rather let the algorithm bring them into my network. And so I have all these different SOPs breaking that down, like, hey, go find 10 to 20 different people in your niche that have communities that are active. I show them how to look at their profile and see if they have an active community. If you got 10,000 followers and you're getting 7 reactions on your post, head on out. That is not an active community. But if you go to their page, they're posting every other day or every day, and they're getting several hundred reactions, and they have a very equal ratio to comments. That means they have an engaged community. Now go look and check out the quality of the comments, because if the quality is not there, they could be using a pod and it's completely fake. Mm-hmm. But if they aren't using a pod and they are legit building a community, look to see if they're engaging with those comments. And if for any chance they aren't, that's an opportunity too, because that means that you can jump in there and engage with that active community that they're not engaging with. And so I call it the taking advantage of lazy influencer strategy. And you just go in there and you hit their notification bell. You say all posts, not just high performing, but all of their content.
Yep.
And so rather than finding them in the feed, you wait until it alerts you on your page. Hey, they posted something 2 minutes ago. Okay, this person has a really active community. Go read that sucker.
Yep.
Read it. If you hate it, don't engage with it. But if you actually like it, it's got to be something you enjoy, because it takes a lot out of you to do this. So they better be creating quality content. You better enjoy it. And so I'll tell them to do this, and then go comment on it with something legit. Don't just say great post, like actually say something awesome, add something to the conversation, make it something potent. If you feel powerful about it, be powerful. And then from there, as people engage with that conversation, you're going to keep getting notifications about it. Go back, look at those headlines. If that person's in your customer avatar or whatever, go after them, go to their page. Just viewing their page is a form of a lead funnel, because they're going to see that you viewed it. They're going to come back to your file. They're going to like the cut of your jib.
That you're rocking your Dodger hat, right? I think it comes down to 3 little letters, and that's SSI, right? The social selling index. I think if we want to talk about strategy, Lorianne, that is exactly.
And that's a brilliant strategy. And
there it is. Go look at your SSI.
Yeah.
You want to know where to go, right? Daniel, here's the thing that I think is, and I used to, it's so funny. Like the longer you hold on to stuff, like, what I realized? I will tell you every secret. I'm like, I love that about Gary Vee. 99% of you are not going to go do anything. Like, and I think I kind of caught that in your tonality and your attitude. Like, you had no problem sharing. You were just going, talking about all the things you do. And I'm like, I love this guy. And when I reached out to you like right during the show. And then
Daniel's
you got back to me the next day. And no, it was funny because he goes, oh yeah, well, what part did you like? And I laughed. I'm like, yeah, I'm real. Like, and then but I was shoot, like, what was the name of the show? So I like hurried up and went and found it again. But it's interesting because really LinkedIn gives us all the tools. But here's something I would say, Lorianne, to that question on strategy. Number 1 is literally linkedin.com/sales/SSI. That's going to give you your score within your network. And you're going to know, where are you weak? Like, for instance, my SSI has dropped. I don't know if we could share it, Donnie. My SSI dropped over the last few months as we've been really focused on getting all this new software we're getting ready to pop out in these new programs. I haven't been as engaged as much. And that area of reaching out has dropped. So normally I've been in the top 1% of my field. I'm always the top 1% of my networks. Like, I've always been in the top, and I've always had somewhere in the high 80s to low 90s, and it dropped down to a higher 78. But what I love about it is that the 2 areas that dropped the most were in proper engagement with others and getting people accepted in. I have so many people trying to connect with me. I haven't gone through and filtered it, because so many of them are like, hey, would you be interested in owning a business? And I'm like, oh my God.
Would you like to franchise? Yeah.
I'm like, would you like to read for 2
story about
seconds?
franchising.
Go ahead.
I got an email from somebody about a franchise in the construction business, because I have a history in construction. The funny thing is I actually know the 2 people who started this franchise, who are franchising them. And that was my response to them, was like, oh, do you know Ryan and Julie?
You know what, Daniel?
Did they even respond?
Yeah, did they?
Yeah,
Daniel, you nailed it. You nailed it earlier. It's all about that quality, because if you think about it, let's stay right here too, Donnie, with the screen for a second. But sorry, didn't get it to you quick enough. But if you think about this, okay, so Lorianne, you're talking about that comment there, right? How awesome would that, just even that simple response, being able to go back though, if that person had just taken a second and look at your network within a quick moment, you're going to see if you have connections. So if I'm doing something with Daniel and I are connected, and he's doing his program, and I'm working a different element to it, and I see that they're connected, there's a good chance, a pretty good chance that they have seen or read or been a part of some of Daniel's comments. So for me to try to go and dump something in their lap that is going to just make me look completely unconnected personally, it's just so dumb. And this is what I want people to recognize is if you just take a quick moment, your SSI will give you your core areas where you're weakened. And the second thing I would offer is like, be patient. If it means you're doing one or two, but they're good every day, like keep that up, work that muscle, and get three, and get four, get to a point where you're doing a good 10 engagements a day. I promise you won't get through 7 days of doing that before the response and the engagement is so much you won't be able to do the 10. Am I wrong, Daniel?
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I mean, I have lost clients because they didn't see results, the results that I had promised them. And at the end of the day, they're not doing their homework. I'm telling them to go respond. Like if you're going to put a call to action in your post, and obviously I'm writing it for them, but I'm putting that call to action in there so people will comment and create buzz and create conversation. And ultimately, the greatest marketers on LinkedIn are just great conversationalists. They are able to create that striking moment of like, wow, let's talk about this. And before, like if you look at my comments on my page from the last week, like you look at my post, it's like 20 likes, 42 comments, like 17 likes, 72 comments, because like I'm striking up conversation, I'm pushing that conversation forward. And so I try to lead by example with my clients, but a lot of times people want a personal brand, they want to grow on social media, but as soon as the networking aspect comes out, they're like, oh, Linky be too hard, I just can't do this, like, and it truly drives me insane. It's like, at the end of the day, you're not just engaging with a bunch of bozos in your comments. You are engaging with potential clients. And even if they aren't your clients, they are still connected to people that could become your clients. At the end of the day, you're not trying to sell these people. You're just trying to create a relationship. And so when you have 20, 30, 40, 50 people that just love you because you're awesome, they are going to continue engaging with you all the damn time. I tell people, come for the insights, stay for the vibes. At the end of the day, you're not just here to learn from me. You're here to get boosted up, to have a good day because I said something that encouraged you. And those people are growing their followings on a consistent basis. They may be in a niche that's similar to yours, but they may never buy a damn thing from you. And who cares? Because at the end of the day, they have a following that's.
But you're building each other up. That's the thing is you're building. You're
validating each other, and that's where the growth comes from. And so I'm always banging my head against the ground, like trying to convince my clients that just because you're not going to sell something to them doesn't mean they can't sell you to other people. Doesn't mean that just by interacting with you, they are creating buzz and driving people back to the funnel, which is your profile. And from there, you have to design it to actually perform. But at the end of the day, it's like, once I figured that out, I felt like I had cracked the code. I felt like Neo in the Matrix, and I stopped the bullet, and I'm like, I don't even need to know how to fight. Like
Neo who?
Yeah, exactly.
But you're right. And the thing is I think this has a lot to do with the culture of social media.
It's post and ghost.
That's it.
I checked the box.
That's right. And I think this is why people like Gary Vee and other influencers have always been so strong about it. And if you look at the way that they're creating content here, it is a little different, but more importantly, I think they're more authentic here. Certain people like there's the Grants and the Garys and a handful of other really awesome folks at this game. It doesn't matter where they're at. They're at that level. They're themselves anywhere. But I think most importantly is recognizing that this isn't social media. And this is what I try to tell people. Like LinkedIn is more than that. LinkedIn, if you stop for a moment, I don't care if you're a consumer to consumer or business to consumer, but especially if you're in the business to business or you are coaching, training, helping or supporting or offsetting any level of costs for somebody who supports those roles, the potential for you to really impact and make growth and see your business flourish by just having simplicity in your process as you come into LinkedIn. I will stake almost anything on it. when you do the work, and it doesn't have to be a lot. People come onto this platform or get on social networks, period, for two things: either to be educated or entertained. And you can entertain somebody by allowing them to get to know things that you're willing to share. That's a form of entertainment. I love one of the posts that you had where you're talking about building a carousel. I cannot tell you how many times it drives me nuts when I see people put up these collages.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you guys, create a document. It's not that hard.
It's a PDF.
Yeah.
PDF, not images.
That's it. And I love you. And so think about it. Like, thank you. Okay, maybe you pitch me at the end. Maybe you don't. I don't care. I just learned something. And guess what? I'm going to enjoy more engagements with you. And more importantly, is you're entertaining or you're educating me. And I think that's what we just, hopefully that folks get out of this. And in listening to your story, what I like is that you are doing the simple, but you're building and you're growing, and your business will continue to grow more, and your network will grow, and you'll start to have deeper connections. That's the whole point of LinkedIn, is to link up. And then now you got like, hey, I got a guy. Let me call Daniel.
Yeah, and when there's nothing but a sea of douchebags across the heavens, it's just unbelievable how many jerks there are on LinkedIn that do not give a crap about any of that stuff. It's like when I worked on the car,
fade out, dude.
When I was at the car dealership, it was like my entire team was just a bunch of jerks that didn't care about anyone. They would rip car dealership. Yeah, I used to work in car sales, and I was the nice guy on the lot that actually wanted to hear what people wanted and what they wanted to buy, and it was always like, oh man, I love Daniel, but everybody else here is a bunch of sharks, and it's like, and so like LinkedIn provides that opportunity in a sea of people who are totally doing it wrong. You can be that one person that does it right.
What a point.
You stand out. Yeah, and let me speak to Gary Vee too, because I know he's always like on the top of our minds, but there's a reason that he's on the top of our minds, because like I said at the beginning of this, I started going on walks. I was early in my journey. I had no idea what to do, but there was Gary like offering some really simple advice of like, just go out there and talk to people like you would do anywhere else, a skill set that nearly any person has. And so no matter what, I will always look back on those early phases of my career, and I will think of Gary Vee. And so like, I thought to myself, how can I do something like this, but on LinkedIn? And so anytime someone hits me up in the comments, they ask me a question, they ask me, I tell people all the time, like, you don't have to pay for my community. Drop a question in my comments and I'll give you a free masterclass in 1,200 characters. And I don't care, because I can type like 120 words a minute. I don't care. I'll type it out. I'll share my insights with you, because I want you to feel inspired to go to that next step. And if I'm the guy that was able to help you get there, I know that just like with Gary and how he stands out in my memories, you're going to stand out in your memories too.
That's
and
right.
It's not selfish. It makes me feel great. It helps me own my craft. It helps me create new content ideas. It helps me create a new follower. It helps me inspire somebody. And ultimately, I have so many people that approach me like, I heard you on a podcast, or you helped me out in the DMs. And it's like, I don't even remember, but it's like, at the end of the day, it's so impactful for those individuals, because I remember how impactful it was for me. And it's like, just do good by other people, right? Like you're not wasting a bunch of time responding to a quick comment. If you think you're wasting time, then you have the wrong mentality, and you're not going to be successful at LinkedIn. And you're probably sitting on the toilet scrolling through Instagram anyways. You might as well.
TikTok. That's TikTok. Yeah. Toilet is TikTok. I was going to talk about that earlier when you brought it up. Like T for TikTok, it's toilet is TikTok time. It's awesome because you could just, you get your 5-10 minutes and you laugh.
Yeah.
You're right. And then there's usually a good TikTok that tells me it's probably time to get up and get off.
Oh, right? Yeah, like the YouTube warning or whatever.
Yeah, like hey, or
how Netflix is like,
hey, you've been here a minute, but you know
need to go take a shower. You've been on Netflix for too long, or whatever.
You left something there pretty good. I want to give you an opportunity to come back. A little final thought. Daniel, because you said something really profound. You've shared tons of info. And also, before we get out of here, I'd like you to share with our community, where can I find you? Now, we'll put this stuff up, of course, in the post, but please, by all means, invite and let it all out. Let people know where they can find you and how can they learn more about you. But please don't forget what you were just saying in regards to if they're coming into LinkedIn and they're behaving in a certain way, they're doing it for the wrong reason. If you can kind of wrap that up in a final thought for us, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on the skate park. I used to help myself stay motivated as well as all the other people. And I think there's always an opportunity to be that person in that group of egos and people with big heads to say, no, I'm not that person. Come here, make yourself more approachable, and the world will actually want to approach you. And I think that's a huge trademark of what's made me successful in that regard. But yeah, that would kind of be my final thought. And then if anybody's really trying to find me, just go to my LinkedIn. You can find me under Daniel Kading. My name is very easily spelled with a lightning bolt, my orange picture. I gave up on my website. I don't really have one right now. I just have my link trees and all my other stuff. So if you want to find me on Twitter or any of the other social media platforms, @brandwithdan, no special spelling. And reach out, shoot me a DM, and let me know what you're working on, and I'll see if I can help you with it.
Love it. Awesome. Lorianne, what about you? You always got something wonderful to say.
Well, I think my big takeaway here today is that just be yourself. I think, instead of just trying to be cute and really smart and come across as like, oh, I know everything about my particular industry. I mean, Daniel just shared the story about he had a typo that was in the entire week. He gave himself permission to have a rant. I've never given myself permission to have a rant on social media, essentially. But I think just trying it out and seeing what happens, just seeing how your audience reacts to things. All of this is just an experiment to see what resonates with our audience. Because what works for Daniel may not work for me.
Yeah,
but what works for me may not work for you.
I was thinking about that rant. I was like, I would love to go off. I was like, but the reaction, I promise you, I know what happens when I get angry or upset. It doesn't go well and people stop talking to me. So I'm like, I can't go on a rant. I want to really bad. I have to work really hard to change people's initial perception on me, like just looking at me now. But no, you're absolutely right, Lorianne. We have to give ourselves permission to be ourselves, be authentic, and more importantly, recognize that there are tons of folks like Daniel, like ourselves, that are offering value and opportunity for you to grow and learn. And I love what he said. It's about building each other up. I think that really that synergy is what was probably deep inside that made that connection. And I wanted to have Daniel on the program because that's what this show is all about. It's about having that contagious attitude and behavior that says, look, I want to create leadership here in my network and in sectors. I want to help people grow. I want to give somebody information so they don't make the same stupid mistake I did in 2022. We'll talk about that on some other posts. But the thing is that there's opportunity for us to help each other. So anyways, hey, Daniel, listen, I want to thank you so much for being here. Don't take off. We got a couple other things we'd like to work with you on. But for those of you guys who are happy we're back, by all means, please let us know. If some of you are a little irritated that now we're in your feed again with videos, I really don't care, but I kind of do want to hear what you have to say. So listen, thank you so much. Make sure to connect with Daniel.
Comment anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? It's always good for engagement and everything else. Yeah. You guys, I'm Rigo Murillo, my beautiful and wonderful co-host, Lorianne, and our guest again, Daniel Kading. Thank you so much for being here, Contagious Media, with our Contagious Leadership Live podcast. We will check you next week. Take care. God bless.